All right, so
You want me to start over? Just kidding.
Now you have a couple coaching topics to go over. Just some reminders. So remember, we have the 1 to 4 coaches ratio, which must be maintained at all time. That includes transporting to competitions and trainings, during trainings, as well as competition. So, and the 1 to 4 coach must be in a Class A volunteer. The 1 representing the coach, the 4 representing the athletes. Certified coaches for this fall, we're going to be flexible, obviously, since we are not going to be able to have a training school. As you can see here, the flag football was missed being taken out. But due to the coronavirus, we will not be able to hold a training school for roller skating. So once we return to in-person as is, you will see roller skating trainings returning. Okay, and just a reminder, there is a new rule that comes out as of 2021. For every 25 athletes you have at a training site or at competition, you must have a certified coach. So if you have 1 certified coach and you have 26 athletes, this now means that you have to have 2 certified coaches. Okay, so before we only required the 1 certified coach, but once you hit the number 25, you must have 2. Personally, I would love to see you have more like 10 certified coaches. The athlete medical, due to the fact that we had trouble with athlete medicals being updated and coronavirus and not being able to get doctor's appointments. I know my doctor appointments were pushed off for probably a good 6 months. We are going to extend the athlete's 3-year application for participation, or what we call the medical. So anything that is expired from March to July, you are okay for 6 more months. Any medical that expires after August 1st, you must have a new medical to participate, okay? So again, if it was expired during March to July of 2020, you are extended 6 months. Athletes who expire after August 1st, you must have a new medical to participate. If there was some major changes, we would like to have those athletes get their medicals updated sooner than later, okay? And any high-risk individual should not return to Special Olympics in-person activities until Phase E, okay? I don't know how much you've heard about the Phase E and what the high risks are, but you are looking at athletes, Bruce, let me know if I missed anything here. If they are diabetic, have or had cancer, a BMI of 30, and over, heart conditions, and breathing issues. Did I get them, Bruce?
Yeah, I think so. And we'll show the high risk one slide later just to double check, because it changes weekly, it seems like now with the CDC.
Yes. Okay. So a little bit about job descriptions and levels of responsibilities. You maybe have seen these multiple times, this slide, but there's something new at the bottom. We have taken our head coaches and our assistant coaches job descriptions and we have put them on the website. These are brand new and they are updated. It includes what you need to be doing prior to practice, prior to your coach's season, actually, during practice, after practice, during competition, and after competition. So they are 2 to 3 pages each. You can find them on the SOPA website. If you go under resources and training, you will see them under the training tab. Okay, so that's where you're going to want to go. SOPA web sources, again, it's resources and it's on the training tab. They are also able to be found in the monthly update, so you'll be able to find that information there as well. But you might want to check those out. They encompass a lot more information than they have in the past. the Visas portal, training schools and more. This is a really important tab. I hope you've all been on the portal, on the Visas portal. I always call it your personal Visas portal, because you can see this one is directed towards me. It says, welcome, Jennifer. And it tells me that I can take under training schools, webinars, and more. This is where I can sign up for training schools. This is where I can I can tell myself, since it's my page, but this is where you can tell me what sports you are interested in coaching and what sports you're interested in coaching. And also, if you're an experienced coach or not, there's a track 2 request form there. And this sports training application is now going to be paper free. So there's a new spot that you're going to see on the SOPA Visas page that you can put in your application hours. So instead of filling out the sports training application, you'll be able to go in your personal Visas, and that's where you will submit your hours. But here's the key thing. We need to make sure that your coaches are getting on this page, because we want them to be able to register for a training school. Here's what's going to be happening. You're going to see this is the new tab under training schools, webinars, and more. And this is the tab that says sports training application coaches hours. When you click on this tab, this box will appear, the box here in red, and it says job, I believe it is. And this will actually, if you put your cursor on it, it will list any training schools that you have recently taken. Okay, so if you didn't take an Alpine training school, but you were going to try to put some hours in there for Alpine, it can't be done because it's not in your database record that you took an Alpine training school, because you didn't register for it. Okay, so when you register, let's say I'm registering for that flag football training that's happening in a couple of weekends. After flag football training takes place, if I come into this box and hit the down arrow, flag football will be there. Okay, so it only appears if you registered for the training. That's the only way it'll appear in that box. Okay, so after you have your training, you can complete your 10 hours. You can complete them all at one time, this information all at one time. You can go in and complete it after every practice, however you would like to do it. So I would go in, I'd click on the job button, I'd click my flag football, I'd put the date and I had practice and the number of hours that I have. Now, you can't put in there 10 hours and be done with it. You have to put in each training session. Okay, the maximum number of hours you'll be able to put in there is 3 hours, because the maximum amount of numbers you can have is 3 hours for training or a competition. Okay, so 3 hours is the max. You'll put in all your hours. Every time you hit submit, this box will come back up. Okay, once you've got all of your hours in there, you can go back into your Visas portal. You'll go under the tab called My Information, and there is a box here that says Sport Training Applications Submitted Hours. And what you will see is down here in the area below the blue box, it'll see all the hours that you submitted. You can double check it, you can delete them, you can add more if you need to. Once you have your 10 hours, a blurb will go to the manager of the program, as well as to me, that will say you have submitted your 10 hours, and then I will go in and approve it and update your database record. Okay. The reason it's going to a manager is the manager can send it to the training coordinator, who can say, wait a minute, I don't know what these hours are for, and they can contact me. Okay, so that you have the opportunity to say, no, those hours were not appropriate. Okay, so that's how the new Visas portal will work. I will let you know when it is up and running. Your training director will probably be the one notifying you. Okay. Also remember that on the front page, when you come into the Visas portal, you will see these red boxes down here. This will tell you what information is not complete or needs to be updated. This says your general orientation, protected behaviors, concussion training, and your background clearance. As you can see, Mike is a little delinquent here. His happened to be all missing. Okay, so he can click right on the status and it will take you to the Class A required trainings. Click on what you need. You can take it right there. It's wonderful because once you click on these and you take the trainings, it automatically goes into your record. There's no middleman. Everything goes right in. Okay. Continuing education on the website. If your volunteers are looking for it, go to the volunteer resource tab, then click on volunteer training, and right here is the continuing education course options. Remember, continuing ed must be completed every 3 years to maintain your certification. We have lots of opportunities. The opportunities are even going to grow. Probably this weekend, I will have a brand new list of classes and courses available for continuing education. Some have some small fees to them. The majority of them do not have any fees. Okay, this is the great time if you have assistant coaches who have certifications. This is a great time right now to be joining into webinars or different classes that are being offered to update their certifications to keep themselves current. To improve communication, we have joined a Facebook group. I don't know how many of you belong to it. It is a closed Facebook group. When you have to apply and you will be asked the following 2 questions. What SOPA program do you coach for, and what sports do you coach? Once you answer these 2 questions, you will be admitted into the group. When you are invited into the group, you will see emails from the training department, the competition department, couple of other departments like to join in, but you'll see information just as fast as we can get it out and get it to you. You are also eligible to post things. You can ask questions. It's a great way to share best practices, help each other out, talk about best equipment. So please, if you have the opportunity, this would be a great place for you to join us. Okay. And by the way, it's not mandatory. It's just a great tool for you to have. Okay, the Lunch and Learn web series are back. Of course, we've had a little trouble trying to keep up with it with all of our returning to activities information that's been happening and taking place. But we do have some upcoming webinars. On August 26th, we will have virtual fitness. This is for phase A. And again, phase A is when we cannot be together. September 9th is uniforms, logos, and requirements. This is one of the biggest questions we have is about how to pick the uniform logos and then the requirements of the uniforms. So again, that one's September 9th. October 14th is Unified Fitness. This will be, this is actually for schools, I believe. So there are 3 Lunch and Learns that are scheduled already, and we hope that you will join us on them. And again, if you cannot join us, we always make sure a copy is placed on the website so you can tune in. The Coaches Training and Progression Plan is still moving right along. We have about, I think it's 12 coaches who will be joining the fall class this year. 3 of them are silver level coaches and the rest are bronze level coaches. If you have not jumped on board and started working on your coaches training and progression plan, we highly recommend it. Okay. And just so you know, we have been doing coaching Special Olympic athlete courses virtual. We will be offering a couple of more of them this fall. And now Principles of Coaching, they just put out a new online course for us to teach. So we will also be doing virtual Principles of Coaches courses starting this fall. So first you want to take the Coaching Special Olympic Athletes, and then you want to move on to Principles of Coaching. And in early January, we will be offering Coaching Unified Sports. Okay, so if you are wanting to get involved, these are the courses you want, and they are coming to you this fall and early winter. Fit 5 still is in play. This is a great opportunity to help your athlete with their fitness, their nutrition, and of course their hydration. If you're interested, go to your Visas portal. Again, go under certifications and you will see where you have protective behaviors, general orientation, concussion training. The first one is Fit 5. You can sign up right there, watch the video, you'll get your materials, and you'll be ready to go. Okay. Some updates on the USA and the World Games, the USA Games and World Games. Some of you know USA Games as National Games. Its new title is USA Games. And in 2021, the World Winter Games that were supposed to be in Sweden in 2021 are now going to be 2022 in Kazan, Russia. Okay, so we had 8 athletes qualify it, and all 8 athletes, those 8 athletes are able to attend Russia. I just keep saying Russia to myself. Sorry. In 2022, the USA Games will be held in Orlando, Florida. They will also be held in Disney World, which I am extremely excited about. So it was once announced that the qualifiers were going to be in 2020, but obviously since we are not able to have an in-person fall festival, the qualifier has now moved on to 2021. Okay, coaches' applications will be available this fall, and we will do the preseason questionnaire with the athletes as we have done in the past. So if they are interested, they will need to fill out this preseason application. In 2023, World Games will be in Berlin, Germany. Okay, we'll have more information on that as the dates sneak up and get nice and close to us. All right, so that kind of ends our housekeeping portion, but we do have some rule updates. So Al, do you want to jump in here, or do you want me to just keep going?
Jen, can I ask something real quick, just because it was related to the coaches' certifications?
Sure can.
To the head coach, I just have a question from Debbie, so you can elaborate if you need to, but Debbie's asking, the head coach used to have to sign the application verifying for hours?
Right, and you will no longer be doing that. Okay, so instead of you signing, we will be having the manager send it to the training coordinator, who will do the official approval.
So Shannon will take care of all that.
Shannon will take care of that, yes.
Thank you.
Cool.
Okay, Shannon may come back to you and say, Debbie, was this coach here? And then you would just have to say yes or no.
No, she won't. She trusts me.
All right. Okay, so since I didn't hear from Al, I guess I'm going to continue on. You all know Al. He is our roller skating sport director, and his email is rskate@specialolympicspa.org. So this is the new rules update, and this is the new handbook cover. So if you have a rule book that doesn't have this on the cover, your rule book is now old. Okay. So the first change in the rule updates is for the starting procedures. So instead of saying on your marks, ready, go, they're going to say in position. Once they say in position, the official will wait till everybody is ready, and then they will give the signal to go, which of course can be either a starting gun or a whistle. Okay. Also, the timekeeping has changed. From what I understand, and Al will correct me if I'm wrong, when the timer before, when the would say on your mark, ready, go, when they would blow the whistle, the timer would wait till the athlete reached the starting line and then went. Okay, it is not that way anymore. So now when they say in position and they blow the whistle to go, the timer starts immediately. Okay, so your athlete will need to start skating as soon as the whistle is blown. Now, there's another rule in the book about starting boxes. It's very confusing, as you can see by my little smiley men. We are getting clarifications on this rule, and as soon as we have it for you, we will definitely update you on the rule. Okay, but from what I understand, we are having starting boxes for the athletes. We're just trying to confirm the size of that box and how they're going to work. All right, Bruce, return to activities, and I believe we have a poll right now.
All right, so now we're going to take a quick poll, and it'll pop up on your screen. The poll question is, if you can type the answer in, do you plan to return to in-person activities this fall season? So you can either select yes, no, or undecided. We got a yes, we got two yes, we got two no's. We have, actually, the probably last two, Jen, are probably me and you. Let's see, one more second, okay. I will share the results. Are you able to see the results on the screen? So that's where we're at, 2 and 2. So we'll talk about in-person and virtual in a second. All right, let me pull my screen back up. So we'll just go over these real quick about the phases. So this graphic is just a quick demonstration of how our phases directly corresponds with the Pennsylvania guidance as well as SOI. So if you can see, starting from the left, you can see SOPA's phase A directly aligns with SOI phase 0 and the state of Pennsylvania's red and yellow phase. Those phases is kind of the virtual phase where we are in right now. Moving over to the right, you'll see SOPA's phase B, which directly corresponds with the SOI phase 1, with no more than 10 participants at a training site. Moving to the right, phase C is no more than 25 participants at a training site. And then SOPA's phase D directly corresponds with SOI's phase 2 with no more than 50 participants at a training site. And then our last phase all the way to the right is phase E, which is in line with SOI's phase 3 with no more than 150 participants. You'll notice that SOPA's phase D and E are grayed out. That is because we will not allow any training sites to go past phase C at this particular point. When we say participants, for instance, in phase B, the no more than 10 participants does include coaches, the COVID-19 coordinator, as well as the athletes or anyone else that is within your training site. So make sure you're being selective and just make sure that those that are attending training sites are just the coaches and the athletes. If parents are there and and they're close to your training site, they would need to be considered one of those participants. Real quick, I want to bring, actually, Jen, I think you're going to have to do it. Can you mind pulling up the SOPA website just so we can share some of the resources that are there and where they're at? You can just click on the link where it says SOPA website.
Yep, there it is.
Were you able to pull it up?
Okay, can you still see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
You should be able to just click on the SOPA website link that's there. It should take you directly to it. Oh, you didn't have to click off.
There we go.
Okay, so did it disappear?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It must be the storms.
Oh, do you want me to pull it out real quick?
Okay, let me give me one more shot here.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. So as you can see on our website, when you go to the main website, on the main page, there will be a link that says COVID-19 return to activities. You'll click on there and then it'll bring you to the return to activities page. On there, you'll see specifically for coaches, there's a coaches tab that'll show the videos that we've shared last week with the coaches, the code of conduct and risk assessment forms on there. There's a link for the high risk individuals, give you more explanation of what that means. If there's any questions that are related to COVID-19 or anything that's related to the return to activities, you can reach out either to your training site COVID-19 coordinator, or you can reach out to Chelsea Hamill, who is our SOPA's COVID-19 coordinator at the state office. So those are your options if you have any questions there. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. The other thing that is on this web page under coaches is right in there. It shows the sports specific guidelines for roller skating, and we'll dig into that a little bit deeper eventually, but that's where you'll see the sport guides that we created for roller skating. As we move on in the presentation, we'll take you through some of that. So just want to make sure that you're aware of that. There's a specific link there for the coaches that I encourage you to look at. All right, so if you go back to the presentation, that would be fantastic. I just want to give you some real brief an overview of some important highlights that are included within the return to activity plan. Specifically, returning to activity in person is really optional. You're not required to return to activity in person, especially if you're not comfortable with returning to in-person activity. Secondly, as I mentioned earlier, the attendance of the training sites includes everyone in attendance, including athletes, coaches, unified partners, coaches is in there twice, volunteers, caregivers. Everyone at that site would need to complete the COVID-19 participant code of conduct and be within those site limitations. Also, because of COVID-19, we will not require coaches to be certified this fall. As always, the at-home virtual training and competition is always an option for the athletes. For those athletes that are not comfortable with returning to play, or those athletes that cannot return to in-person training due to being a high-risk individual. Lastly, if they are returning to in-person activity, all athletes and participants and coaches are required to complete the COVID-19 participant code of conduct and risk assessment form before they are allowed to participate in practice. Next slide talks about coaches' responsibilities. I'm not going to go into great detail with that, but those are some of the responsibilities as a coach. Just make sure your coaches are educated on COVID. High-risk individuals are not able to return to in-person play at this time. Make sure that all athletes bring their own water bottles. They won't be allowed to drink out of a water fountain, or you shouldn't be bringing water coolers or anything to practice because we don't want anything being shared and the virus being transmitted that way. Additionally, equipment should not be shared. There is some questions about skates and skate tying, but Jen will speak to that in a few slides coming up. We also want to ensure that athletes avoid the shaking hands, fist bumps, and the high fives just because of cross-contamination. Next slide, we put together an athlete practice checklist where we want our athletes to make sure that they bring a face mask, water bottles, there's sport-specific supplies that they need, a towel if they use one, and then we recommend that athletes bring hand sanitizer, disinfectants. Hopefully you don't need sunscreen inside of a skating arena, but if you're outside, make sure you have some sunscreen, granola bars, hair ties, etc. Now we'll talk about virtual competitions, what it's going to look like this fall. So this fall, we will offer roller skating at the sectional level, like I mentioned to start off, as well as Fall Fest. Sectionals will be held on Saturday, October 3rd. We will be having one opening ceremony. We may potentially turn this into a 2-day event, just depending on how much material and content that we collect. So what will happen is coaches will collect preliminary scores at a practice or from athletes that are training at home, and will turn those scores in 3 weeks prior to sectionals, which will be Monday, September 10th. Then the Monday before sectionals, the final scores will be collected and turned in by Monday, September 28th. Fall Fest, again, is going to be virtual, and it will take place the normal weekend of November 6th through the 8th. Similarly to sectionals, coaches will collect preliminary scores at practice or from the athletes that are training at home, and they'll submit those scores 3 weeks prior to Fall Fest. For Fall Fest, it would be Monday, October 15th. And then again, final results would be due the Monday before Fall Fest, which is November 2nd. So again, the coaches will collect their athletes' preliminary scores. We do have a data collection worksheet that Jen will go over in a little bit. And you'll find that within the roller skating guidance. So those preliminary scores, like we mentioned, are due Monday, September 10th for sectionals and Monday, October 15th for Fall Fest. So you will turn those scores into your program's sport and competition coordinator, who will then in turn submit them on your behalf to SOPA. We will also have an in-person division as well as an at-home division for those athletes that are not comfortable with returning to play. So again, there'll be 2 separate divisions, one for those athletes that you are training in person, and then a separate division for those athletes that are either high risk or not comfortable with returning to play. Once we collect those preliminary scores, we will enter them into GMS and will division the athletes appropriately by age, ability, and gender. Since we will be virtual and scores will be collected at your practice site or directly from your athletes, we developed an honor code, which we will talk about on the next slide. Then after we collect those preliminary scores, the final scores will be due the Monday prior to the event. So for sectional, scores will be due by Monday, September 28th. And for Fall Fest, those final scores will be due by Monday, November 2nd. Again, that data will be entered into our GMS system and the athletes will be awarded appropriately. So the honor code that we collected, that we created specifically revolving around virtual events, it may not specifically speak to roller skating, but in some sports it does. But because these events are done virtually and at practice sites and potentially at home by the athletes, we created this honor code to support the integrity of this sport and fair play. So athletes will have 1 attempt to record their competition score. Allowing multiple attempts to get a better score would be a violation of our virtual competition. Coaches must enforce the competition rules, which includes if a rule violation has occurred. I'm just trying to think of how it could occur in roller skating. Maybe if an athlete was doing a speed skating activity and they were doing it at home, and their first round of scores they were doing on an incline, and then they came back and were doing their final scores and they did it on a decline. So obviously their scores would be a little quicker on the decline. So we're trying to say with this honor code that athletes will use the same course or use the same playing field or use the same ball as they did to submit their preliminary scores as they do for their final scores. Just helps to, just to compare apples to apples. Next slide for the awards. This is something different that we're doing this year. Each individual skill will be awarded separately. So if the athlete competes in each of the 3 individual skills, they will be awarded for each individual skill. Athletes do not need to compete in all 3 events, but they do need to compete within the same level. So if they select level 1 artistic individual skills, then they need to do the other skills that were within level 1. They can't do one level 1, like cross in the back, and then do a level 2 2-foot jump. So again, if they're doing artistic skills level 1, they have to stay within level 1. They can, however, do level 1 artistic, all 3 events at level 1, and then do a level 2 for the speed if they choose to do it that way. But again, if they're doing level 1 for speed, they have to do level 1. If they're doing level 2, then they have to do level 2. All right, so I'm going to pass it back to Jen, I believe.
That would be, yep.
All right, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions as well.
Okay, so some training reminders. So if the athletes are going to need to sit down and they are going to be on a porous public surface that you can't clean, what we're going to need to have you do is to have them bring towels to sit on or bring a folding camping chair to sit on. Okay, they should not be sitting on a surface that cannot be sanitized. Okay. If an athlete requires assistance to have their skates put on, then the coach must wear a mask and gloves, and they must maintain as much distance as possible from the athlete as they are putting on their, as they're helping them put on their skates. Okay, simple enough, masks, glove, try to stay back as far as you can. So the guidebook that we had mentioned earlier is designed for practicing in sneakers, inline skates, or quads. Okay? We know that some of you may not be able to get into a roller rink. They may not have reopened. So we have everything set up for sneakers and then for inlines and quads. So we're going to jump over to the roller skating artistic book. Okay, so here is the artistic guide. You can see on the front, there's a picture of Darnell and one of her athletes.
Do you want to pull it up? We can't see it, Jen.
Oh, no. You can't see it?
No.
So,
all you have to do is just click on the roller skating artistic guide, and it'll pop right up for you.
That's what I did. And it did.
From that screen?
Yep. So I'm going to stop share.
Huh.
And go in and grab it then.
Sorry, y'all.
So we'll just do it this way. There it is.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks.
But now it's not letting me work it.
Good old technology.
It's supposed to be so easy.
Huh. You want me to try to share it?
Yeah, do you want to give it a shot? See if you can grab it quick.
Oh, you know what? Do you want to take your screen share off?
Yep. Okay, so there you'll see the guide. Yes?
There's the front.
Okay, there's Deb, not Deb, Darnell, cheering everybody on. Okay, and as Bruce takes you through it, you'll see that we have a lot of information in the book. If you just want to scoot down to the next sections, Bruce. So we have some of the information you already saw today. Returning to activities is here, the coach's responsibilities, and that information. What's required at all the phases, whether it's at the 10 participants or 25 participants. There's the code of conduct and the risk assessment form going through. There's a lot of information in there. And then we finally get down a little further. And this will go over a practice plan for you, warm-ups, cool downs. And then this is the artistic book. It'll give you a description of what you'll be doing, equipment that you will need, and then the virtual competition entry information. Okay, followed the phase B and C competition, and phase B and C training. We have all the skills to work on with the athletes in order to compete the skills that we will to complete the skills that we'll be using for competition. Okay, we keep moving down. And here we go. So here is the roller skating artistic level 1 information. As you can see, the information here under description, this one says in a rink with skates on. And then a little further down, we have without skates or no ring. Okay, so there are your 2 options for the quads and inlines, and then in sneakers. Okay, so everyone is set up this way. You want to keep scooting down, Bruce? Okay, this one is the cross and back. So there's a photo, believe it or not, I found this in a very old roller skating book. And again, here's the roller skating without skates and no rink, and the in the rink with the skates on. I tried really hard, but there was no picture of the alternating strokes, but roller skating people, I assume you know what that all means. Okay. And Bruce is going to keep going, and we're going to hit, this is now the artistic level 2. So we have shooting the duck, which is very sad, to shoot a duck. We have the forward arabesque, along with the last skill, which is the 2-foot jump from forward to backward with a T-stop. Okay. And then Bruce had mentioned the collection sheets. So here are the virtual competition sheets. So you can list the athletes, what they're participating in, whether it's inline, quads, or no skates, and then placing their scores in. This happens to be a speed skating sheet, Bruce. Speed skating. But here is the sheet for the artistic with the events that you could put in there so that you have an easier time recording it. Okay, and then information on protective equipment, along with keeping everything clean, preventing the COVID-19 spread, and then what you need to know along with the honor code. And that should be it. Okay. The roller skating here is the speed one. The speed one is set up the same way. So Bruce, if you just want to fly down to the events. Okay, you flew past them.
I did fly very fast.
Yes, you did. There we go. Here's the level 1 for speed. The level 1 event will be the 30-meter straightaway, followed by the 30-meter slalom. That's the next, there we go. There's the slalom. And then we will do the 50-meter half lap. So that would be level 1. Level 2 will then be set up for the 100, the 200, and the 300 meter. And there is the collection sheet once again for it. So there are the forms. So it is set up identical to the artistic book. So that is ready for you to go. Are you just going to stay with yours, Bruce?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So that was all the information we saw in the book, but I need you to back up, Bruce, let's go to the practice plans. Please remember, we really want you to set up practice plans. It's really important that everybody knows what is taking place in practice, as well as your assistant coaches, as well as the athletes. The structure, to maintain that consistent structure is really important for the athletes as well as your volunteers. So set to your plan, stick to them. Everybody knows what is coming next. All right, then the next sheet is showing you an example of a practice plan. Now this was kind of made up if there were 2 coaches and you only had 1 set of skills and drills. So you can see that we have the COVID-19 coordinator arriving for the setup and sanitation. Then the athletes arrive. We're talking about staggering them, so not everybody is showing up at one time, right? So you'd have your warm-up, and you would split into 2 groups. So if we had 10 participants, we would have 2 coaches, 8 athletes. We'd split the athletes up 4 and 4. In group 1 would be running through maybe the artistic skills 1, 2, and 3. And then the other group might be doing the skills for speed. They would be doing skills 1, 2, and 3. If you were not doing, say, artistic, the group 1 leader would be doing the speed skills for 1, 2, and 3, while the group 2 leader was working on some cardio with strength training, agility, and we have a whole bunch of suggestions up there for them. And then we would stop, we take a water break. Remember, you should be taking one within every 20 to 30 minutes. Let them get their own water. While they're doing that, we would be sanitizing any equipment necessary. And then the athlete groups would switch for the coaches. After 30 minutes, we'd have a cool down, a little water, and then we'd sanitize the equipment and we'd have our wrap up. So we're looking at you to be setting up stations for your training. Okay, Bruce, we talked about the level 1 skills, cross in front, cross in back, and then the 3 alternating strokes. Level 2 skills, shoot the duck. Oh no, shoot the deuce. Shoot the duck, forward arabesque, and then the 2-foot jump, forward and backward with the T-stop. Okay. Level 1 speed, 30-meter straightaway, 30-meter slalom, and 50-meter half lap. Level 2 speed, 100, 200, and 300 meters. Okay, Bruce, back to you for virtual offerings.
All right, so everything kind of we've been talking about was the in-person at a roller skating rink or in-person training. But we also want to make sure that we're also providing you with guidance for the at-home virtual sports specific. So there's guides that Jen just went over with you were specifically for phase B and C. But right now we are in the process of creating a phase A, the virtual at-home phase. So we'll be modifying that and providing guidance for that sometime in mid-August. Again, because we want to make sure that we are giving our athletes that are at home, still providing them with meaningful trainings and a meaningful competition at the end of the season. So we will be adapting some of the level 1 and level 2 skills if needed, meaning that some of them we have cones, but the athletes may not have cones at home. So use water bottles or use chalk to make a starting line, whatever we can do to be creative, but we're coming up with some of that guidance. But also as coaches, if you think about, how you're going to engage those athletes that are afraid to return to in-person training, how are we going to keep training them, and, what type of equipment would they need at home that we could supply them with where they would be able to compete, still be able to compete even though they're at home, but give them a meaningful competition at the end of the season. So again, we'll look forward mid-August to providing more at-home virtual sports specific guidance. Additionally, we will be rolling out the at-home virtual fitness offerings. Jenna's on a national committee task force creating a virtual fitness right now. Very excited for that to be rolling out sometime in mid-August as well. So those athletes that are not specifically want to do the virtual sports specific activities, they will have the option to do the at-home virtual fitness offerings. We're looking to do 2 different types of virtual fitness, one being the virtual fitness competition. Just an idea would have like 20 different exercises, and the athletes could pick 7 of those different exercises, and they would be able to train doing those fitness exercises. And essentially we could test them at the beginning of the year, test them again midway through, and then the final competition would be, how much did they improve over their, 8 weeks of training or 12 weeks of training. The other option for virtual is a national distance challenge. SOI is working on developing an app that athletes can download on their cell phones, where they can track distance, whether it's 100 100 miles in a month or 150 miles. What is this, Jen? I think 50, 100, 150, and potentially
100.
higher.
200 plus.
200 plus for
An 8 to
distance.
10 week challenge.
Good. So Jen is working on that task force right now. So that'll also be coming out in mid-August. So we will also have a variety of options for those athletes that are not returning to in-person play. So we're excited about that as well. Jen, I think you may have to pull up the next poll.
Nope, they are with you.
Oh, I can't. Let me see. How was I able to do that now? Crazy. All right. Learn something new every day. So I'm going to launch the poll. First poll. Would you be interested in leading at-home virtual training and competitions with your team? That is the first question. Yes, no, or I would prefer in person. Second question. Would you prefer the virtual at-home training option to be specific to your sport or fitness focused? So there's two questions there. If you could answer those polls real quick. 10 more seconds and we can end the poll. Can you see the second poll there? Would you prefer the virtual at-home training option to be specific to your sport or fitness focused? There we go. Now we're getting the responses. Okay. All right, good. All right. I'll end the poll. I will share the results. Jen, for the first question, would you be interested in leading at-home virtual training and competition with your team? We have 2 yeses, 1 no, and 1 I prefer in person. Second question, would you prefer the virtual at-home training option to be specific to your sport or fitness focused? 2, sport specific, none for fitness focus, and 1 for do both. So I will stop sharing the
Yay
results.
for the do both. Yay for the
Yay
virtual
for do both.
fitness.
And actually, correct me if I'm wrong, and I think I am correct, but the athletes will be able to do at-home virtual sport-specific competitions as well as the at-home virtual fitness offerings.
That's correct.
I'm stuck. All right, there we go. All right, now we'll open it up for questions. Anyone have any specific questions? Al, you ready? You got anything to mention? Anything to bring up? Anything that we missed?
Yeah, I would like to, can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
I would like to ask the coaches that are on this webinar, how many of your training facilities are open at the present?
And you can unmute yourselves as well.
Chester County's United Sports Center is open.
Oh.
Thank you, Angie.
Olympics open.
Thank you, Debbie.
Wow.
Susan is.
Yes, hi. This is Susan. Our rink is open, and we're starting in-person training this Wednesday.
Nice.
Good. Glad to hear that. Cindy, what about you?
Well, Olympic is open, but my company, because of my job responsibilities, has strongly urged me not to do in-person training because of the health of my safety and my residents that I'm responsible for.
Okay.
Plus the Area M is doing no sports until November 1st. They're going to reevaluate.
Okay.
Okay. Angie, when will you be starting?
We'll probably be starting in probably 2 weeks. We only have a few kids, and most of them feel like they're okay to come out. And so, you know, we just have a handful. So we're pretty easy to keep our distance.
Okay.
Hey, Al, one other thing. With some of the health issues that some of our coaches and our athletes have, I would not be able to manage it by myself.
Right.
And that's what it would be.
That would be the bottom line, right, Cindy?
Yeah, she lied.
Yeah,
Were you
that would be the
concerned-
bottom line of having to manage it all by myself, because I have coaches who have health issues that would restrict them. And I would not be able to do justice to the athletes and provide them with a safe and secure environment and have my eyes on them at all times too.
Are you considering doing the in-person? I mean, virtual, the at-home trainings with your athletes?
That would be for in-person and virtual. I don't know. I don't have the technology ability to do virtual other than on my phone.
And so what we're working on now is we're actually looking at apps or either Facebook Live or Zoom that you can all do on your phone. And we would provide specific training for coaches on how to do that, as well as educate the athletes on how to use whatever that platform would be.
I'm willing to try.
Hopefully.
Cindy and I are from the same area, so that would be no problem.
Cool.
Okay. Just remember that you have to have a COVID-19 coordinator at your training sites, and
Even
you
on-
must submit for permission to open up your training sites.
Virtual?
Virtual,
Not
no.
virtual, just for in-person.
Oh no, we're not doing in person because Area M, like I said, has put the stop on all sports until December 1st. They're going to reevaluate it in November.
Very good. Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay.
Those new sports rules, Jen, I'm going to be looking into that also about confirming about the confusion on the start line.
Yes,
Remember you and I talked about that?
I sure do. Yeah, the measurements are very strange in the new rules. So we're trying to get a clarification on them. So as soon as we get it, we'll let you know. There's also a picture in the book, but it doesn't help.
No.
So, all right.
I have one more question.
Sure.
These artistic development items, they're
Mhm.
just for COVID impacted event this year, not for going back to actual in-person competition and artistic skating, correct?
Correct. This is what we're doing while we're in this phase where we cannot share equipment. We have to be with 6 feet apart while we're wearing masks, those type of things. So this is strictly designed for the COVID generation.
Okay. So that brings me to one other quick point then, Jennifer, if I'm correct on this. If you're in person and if your athlete does not have skates, you're basically saying you may not use the rink rental skates then, correct?
Bruce, did we?
I think you can, as long as they're disinfected.
I would,
Actually, each training site itself you'll be provided with disinfectant as well.
right. Right. You'll be receiving a kit from the programs have all received a kit from SOPA that includes extra masks, hand sanitizer, disinfectant spray, gloves that you can use. So we also did the sneaker portion for those of you who didn't have rinks open. That was our main thought behind that.
Yeah,
So,
I was just thinking though, if an athlete did not have roller skates of their own, and you weren't able to do in person, would not having skates and having to use the rinks rental skates, would that prevent you from allowing that athlete, because it says no sharing of equipment?
As long as it's disinfected. So like a soccer ball at practice, like you wouldn't be sharing the soccer ball between you and I. But that same soccer ball, once it gets disinfected, you could share it with someone else. We're looking at the same thing with like equestrian, with sharing like saddles and things like that. As long as it gets disinfected, right? So you're not sharing a pair of skates. You and I are not switching a pair of skates. And
Without
then
having
not having
disinfected
it
in between it.
disinfected. So as long as it's disinfected between usage, it's fine.
Right. And I would recommend you disinfect, they usually just disinfect the inside of them. Just make sure that they disinfect the outside also before you handle them.
For the laces.
Yeah.
And I mean, for anyone there, if you have any of those questions, please feel free to continue to ask them, even through, you know, Chelsea through email or to Jen or me, it's fine. Also on our website, we are developing FAQ section. So a lot of the questions that come up on these calls and we find like a common theme, we put those up on the FAQs to try to get additional feedback.
Because remember, if you're thinking of it, so is somebody else. So one of you've got to ask it so we can get those correct answers out to you.
Yeah, and I think Angie asked a question earlier about the physicals. If someone has COVID-19, are they required to get a new physical? And it says within the guidance, it says, it doesn't say mandatory. It said something, I got to think of what it says because it kind of, let's see. It says they should get one, but what does should get one? They either need to get one or they don't. So something like that, I'm going to take back to Chelsea and make sure it gets included on the FAQs.
Right. I think that if they're cleared by a doctor, there's probably one answer, but if they're not cleared by a doctor, there's probably another answer.
And I think that was just related to if their 3-year medical was expired, then they would need to get one.
Well, not just if their medical expired. We had an athlete that their family did contract the COVID, but they weren't sick enough to go to the hospital or anything. And the doctor, you know, they were under doctor's care. They're fine. They're okay now. Right. And I'm thinking, okay, does she need a new medical to, you know, come back?
I don't think so. Because the guidance that I gave you was specifically for the extension of the physicals, like the ones that they can get from March 2020 until July 2020. So
right,
they didn't need a physical, and actually that's in there too. As long as they get a doctor's note to return to play, and they were set out for, like, I think the guidance is now like 10 days after symptoms have cleared. So that's all spelled out within the return to activity plan as well.
Yeah. So basically, Joan, if she's cleared and the doctor has given approval, we just might need the doctor to put that in writing for the approval, and that would be fine.
Okay.
But I don't think it's not going to be a new medical because nothing has changed on the medical. They just have
right.
No. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Unless they have complications with the COVID, that now has an issue. So if they do have a complication from COVID, they would need a new medical.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Some very startling statistics came out this morning about BMI and the chances of contracting COVID. And actually, they're saying even from dying from it. For those who are over 30%, their BMI is over 30. It's almost up to 90%. So, yeah, very startling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The last thing you want to hear.
Yeah, right.
All right. If no one has any other questions, you can drop off, and Jen and I and Al will stick around if there's any other additional questions we can answer, or at least try to get you an answer for.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And again, if something does come up, let us know. We'll get answers for you.
Good seeing everybody. Thank you.
You're
Bye,
welcome.
Bye, Cindy.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Angie.
Bye,
Bye, Terry.
Bye,
Bye,
Cindy.
Deb.
Bye, Terry.
Yeah, as romper room leaves, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks, Cindy.
I was going to say there, it says it right there. Participants who are found to have COVID-19 symptoms must wait 7 days. All right, we're the only ones on the call.
Yeah.
So guess what? We're good.
don't